Okay, so here we have an example. A coin is tossed 3 times. An outcome is represented by a string of the sort heads, tails, tails. The 8 outcomes are listed in the table. Note that each outcome has the same probability. So essentially, we're just checking to see which ones have the outcome based on what we have here for the event. A tail on both the first and the last tosses. So a tail first and a tail last. So that's this one. And so how many total outcomes do we have? We're doing probability. So remember, probability is the number of outcomes for your event at the top and the number of outcomes in the title in the entire situation. Okay? And so here we have 8 possible total outcomes, which is our denominator. And then for this particular, the probability that we would get a tail on the first and the last, you see that that's 2. So we have 2 for our particular event, 8 total outcomes from the coin toss. So we reduce 2 over 8 is actually 1/4. Okay, so I went ahead and I broke down to show you how they got these outcomes, which is really just creating a sample tree or sample space. So when you're tossing the coin, you're tossing it 3 times. So there's 3 top tosses here. So toss 1, your possible outcomes are a head or a tails. So then toss 2, you have the same possible outcomes. However, you see it's impacted by what was on toss 1. So that is how we get our outcomes. So you see heads, heads, heads. Then you could have heads, heads, tails. Then you could have heads, tails, heads. So we're looking at this, and this is how they got the list they have. Heads, heads, tails. Heads, tails, heads. Heads, tails, tails. Then here, we could have tails, heads, heads. Tails, heads, tails. Tails, tails, heads. Tails, tails, tails. Which is the exact same sample space that they have already had listed out here for us. So what is the probability that we will get a head on each of the first 2 tosses? So that looks like here, here. So what is that? 2 out of the 8, which is another 1/4. More heads than tails. More heads than tails. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got 4 out of the 8, which is 1/2. Okay, and then we have question number 2 or example number 2 here. A TV studio has brought in 8 boy kittens, 9 girl kittens for a cat commercial. The director is choosing 10 of those cats. What is the probability that the director chooses 6 boy kittens and 4 girl kittens? All right, so first we want to get our denominator. You always want to do your denominator first. So we have 17 total kittens, and we're choosing 10. So that's our denominator. And then for our numerator, what is the probability that we would get for our particular event? That we would end up with 6 boy kittens chosen from the 8 and 4 girl kittens chosen from the 9. So this would be our setup here. And then we would calculate that. So when we do the calculation, our instructions tell us to round to 3 decimal places, so we end up with 0.181. And that would be your calculation for the probability of choosing 6 boy kittens and 4 girl kittens. And that's probability.